Thousands of years ago, there lived a man named Moses. And Moses was called to go up to the mountains with his massive pieces of rock to find out what the 10 commandments were. Moses had a neighbor. And Moses' neighbor, for the sake of this video, we'll call him Bart Cardone. He went up to a different mountain and he came back with the 10 sales commandments. 10 sales commandments that have been passed down through the generations to his great-great-great-great-great-grandson, Grant Cardone. As you can see over here, they are Grant Cardone's top 10 sales commandments. I was looking at them and they left me feeling a little bit sad inside. So what I wanted to do today was get rid of them, break down what my 10 sales commandments were. The top 10 sales commandments. So if you're working in sales, these are the top 10 commandments that you need to know. So go and get yourself a big piece of rock and maybe a chisel and a hammer and carve them out. Commandment number 1 is one of my favorites. Thou shalt always cold call. So as we know in sales, prospecting is one of the hardest things to do. Filling up that top of the funnel, finding the people that have the pain, but also they're motivated to solve that problem. If you can find them and you can sit with them, the chances are there's a good job they'll end up in your pipeline. And if they end up in your pipeline, who knows? You might eventually do a deal with them. But one thing that people aren't doing enough when working in sales is cold calling, picking up the phone and actually speaking to people. It's the only place where you can have a human-to-human interaction. So what we say is focus on cold calling, email, LinkedIn, direct mail, they're all important, but if you really want to be good at sales, thou shalt always cold call. Commandment number 2. Thou shalt always eat the frog. And I don't mean go and get a little barbecue kit and a couple of frog's legs and start twizzling them around. I mean, eat the frog. Whatever the hardest part of your day is, you should be doing that first. So whether that is cold calling or that's a difficult conversation with a deal that might have gone stale, you should always be putting that the front part of your day. It might even be waking up at 5 a.m, going for a 30-mile run and drinking a cup of your own urine. I don't endorse that and I don't suggest that. But what you need to be doing is making sure that you are eating the frog. That part of your day, the first part, block it off. It's got to be the hard tasks. Make sure you get them done. Commandment number 3. Thou shalt always rely on discipline over motivation. So if every time I wanted to go to the gym, I had to look deep inside me and find the motivation, the chances are I would never go to the gym. But what you need to learn to do is to focus on discipline over motivation. Discipline is habits that just over time you will naturally do. So whether it's cold calling, whether it's having a time blocked out for your day, which you're just focusing on cold calling, or you're just focusing on sorting emails out, having that discipline to know what part of the day you do what in is so important, because if every time I wanted to cold call I had to rely on that tank of motivation, guess what? That tank might be empty. So thou shalt always rely on discipline over motivation. Number 4, similar to one of the top 10 real commandments, thou shalt not kill. The deal with unnecessary rapport. So what I mean by this is, when it comes to rapport, so many people think rapport is talking about what somebody got up to at the weekend, or how much they're enjoying the British weather, or what's your favourite football team. Listen, I support them all. But what we don't want to be using rapport for is to have unnecessary chit-chat. Rapport is great because rapport builds trust. Rapport shows somebody that you're a trusted advisor, and you can build rapport by listening. You can actually build rapport by asking great questions. You can't just go into a situation, you can't turn up to someone at a bar and say, hey Linda, listen, I'm a great listener. It doesn't work like that. So get rid of all the small talk rapport, focus on how you can actually help them and build trust that way. Number 5, the 5th commandment, one of my favorites. Thou shalt use 2 ears and 1 mouth. Thank you, God. When he created us, he was up there thinking, God, how can I make this guy? I'm going to put a sprinkle of his eyes being too close together and maybe other things. But he gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should be listening. rather than talking, and the same applies when it comes to sales. When you're talking to prospects, you should be listening to really understand them, and only when you truly understand them can you use that baby to break it down. So make sure you're listening. Commandment number 6. Thou shalt not get attached to the outcome. It's very easy to say, oh, I lost that deal. I hate to break it to you, Linda. I keep using the name Linda. I hate to break it to you. The deal was never yours. You can't lose something that you never had. So one of the biggest things in sales is you can't be attached to the outcome. Well, I want this to happen. Be consistent, do the right things, have the right mindset, and the results will come. Set yourselves tasks that you know that if I do 5 conversations with decision makers, I will get to a point where I have 1 qualified meeting. Do not get yourself attached to the outcome. Easier said than done. Commandment number 7. Thou shalt find the pain and the motivation. So many people, when they're on sales calls, demos, discovery calls, or cold calls, so many calls, too many calls for my mouth. So many people will find that they hear a problem and they say, brilliant, have you got your diary there, Mark? I'd love to sit down with you for 15 to 75 minutes and tell you all about our features and benefits and how we can help you. If there's no pain, there's no meeting. But actually, when you get talking to people and there is pain, brilliant. But I've had a hole in my roof for 32 years and I'm not getting that fixed anytime soon. Do they have the motivation? Think about it like this. You're the doctor, you've got the prescription, you've got to go out to the market, find the people that have the headaches, brilliant. But just because someone's got a headache, it doesn't mean that they can't go to Tesco and get some paracetamol. You need to see if they're motivated. And if they're motivated, the chances are it's not a headache and it's a brain tumour. And if they've got a brain tumour, they need to see a doctor, you, straight away. And that's when you can book them into your diary so you can have meetings with them. Find the pain, find the motivation. Commandment number 8. Thou shalt discuss next steps. Do you ever get to the end of a sales call and you don't ask for something or you don't align what's happening next? Well, what happens then? Well, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wait for Richard to reach out to me. What are the chances out of 100 that Richard's going to email you? Well, let me break it to you. Richard's a very busy man with lots of things to do, and you're not at the top of his to-do list. So align the next steps. Okay, brilliant. I'll give you a call on this date at this time, and if you don't pick up, what should I do then? Okay, brilliant. Well, let's catch up at this time, and then you move forward like that. Make sure that whenever you're coming out of a cold call or a sales call or a discovery call or a demo, make sure that the next steps are always aligned and you know where you're heading. Because if you know where you're heading in the right direction. Sales, you've got all of these communication skills, you know how to sell, you're brilliant, but thou shalt always influence and not manipulate. The difference between influencing somebody and manipulating somebody, intent. What is your intention? If you don't and you're just looking for that commission check, guess what? That's manipulation. Don't be one of these that says, let's get them along the line and customer service can deal with them at a later point. Your job is to find problems and offer genuine solutions. Number 10, and my favourite one, thou shalt always remember that they will die. And by they, I mean you. Don't know how long we've got on this planet. It could be a short amount of time, it could be a long amount of time. You might be making cold calls into your late 90s, but we don't know. So don't put off the things that scare you now, because the things that we do now, they're going to have the best reward in the long term. Plant the seed, watch them grow. That might be cold calling, that might just be going for a little run every day. Remembering you will die is the motto of life, because if you remember that you'll die, you can remember to live. And if you're living in these moments, well, that makes life a lot better. So the next time that you're cold calling or you're selling, think about those 10 commandments. Am I eating the frog? Am I cold calling? Am I doing the right things? Am I aligning my next steps? Make sure that you're doing the right things. So that was it. They're the top 10 sales commandments. I don't know how different they are to the real commandments. I'll be honest, I've never read the Bible all the way through, but they are my top 10 sales commandments. And I hope that you can take something away from this and you can use it to grow and get better. Thank you.